Hello. hello. We are back. I am going to read chapter 2 of book 4 of The Lord of the Rings. This is the Passage of the Marshes. I did this with the Taming of Smeagol just to kind of test it out, and it was really fun. You know, I'm not the greatest reader, but I think it's fun for you guys to maybe see my reactions and kind of like look through this and try to find little cool points in it. And so we're going to do that again. Just a fair warning, it is currently 100 degrees where I live. Actually, let's test right now. I think it was 98 when I left. It's still 98 degrees. High of 99 today. I have my AC running right there, but I only have another one AC in my apartment. So I have that thing running, but it is very hot, and if I start sweating like crazy, just know it's because it's hot. So I'm going to read, and I'm going to do something a little bit, not really different, but I'm going to give a few more comments and commentary so that this hopefully doesn't get flagged. I don't really know some of the copyright behind this. I know fair use if you comment on certain things long enough, but I know someone tried to do this with Harry Potter and ran into a few issues with their videos. If anybody knows, why can't I think of his name? He read Harry Potter for the first time, and he was just kind of like voicing the characters. He was kind of like an actor. He was like a voice actor. Did it really incredibly. Let me know in the comments who that is, because I totally forgot. It's going to bother me. My legs are already sweating. This is gross. Anyway, you didn't need to know all that. I'm going to read the Passage of the Marshes, which is chapter 2 in the Two Towers. Again, not the best reader in the world, but I'm just going to read through this and give you guys some of my commentary. I'm kicking my feet up right now. You can see my knees, my legs. So let's read this. Chapter 2. The Passage of the Marshes. Gollum moved quickly, with his head and neck thrust forward, often using his hands as well as his feet. Frodo and Sam were hard put to keep up with him, but he seemed no longer to have any thought of escaping. And if they fell behind, he would turn and wait for them. After a time, he brought them to the brink of the narrow gully that they had struck before, but they were now further from the hills. So that's interesting that immediately he seems no longer to have any thought of escaping. Why? It's like, again, maybe this is like the addict language of as soon as like you're free is like too early. It's like you're out of your addiction, and all of a sudden you have so much freedom, and you feel like, you know, the world is great, and then all of a sudden you just fall back in some of your old rhythms. Very curious about that one. That's interesting. Only the first paragraph in. Here it is, he cried. There is a way down inside, yes. Now we follows it. Out away over here. He pointed south and east toward the marshes. The reek of them came to their nostrils, heavy and foul even in the cool night air. Gollum cast up and down along the brink, and at length he called to them. Here, we can get down here. Smeagol this way once. Smeagol went this way once. I went this way, hiding from orcs. He led the way. And following him, the hobbits climbed down into the gloom. It was not difficult, for the rift was, at this point, only some 15 feet deep, and about a dozen across. There was running water at the bottom. It was, in fact, the bed of one of the many small rivers that trickled down from the hills to feed the stagnant pools and mires beyond. Gollum turned to the right, southward more or less, and splashed along with his feet in the shallow, stony stream. He seemed greatly delighted to feel the water, and chuckled to himself, sometimes even croaking in a sort of song. The cold hard lands, they bite our hands, they gnaw our feet and they gnaws our feet. The rocks and stones are like old bones, all bare of meat. But streams and pools is wet and cool, so nice for feet. And now we wish. Ha ha. What does we wish, he said, looking sidelong for the hobbits. We will tell you, he croaked. He guessed it long ago. Baggins guessed it. A glint came into his eyes. And Sam, catching the glint in the darkness, thought it far from pleasant. Dang! Oh my gosh. I said this in a members video I just recorded like a few hours ago. Sam has the gift of discernment. I feel like out of everyone in this entire story, Sam knows really like who is good and who is bad. I mean, he was kind of mistaken with Aragorn, but still, I feel like he kind of like got to know him. I just value a character who doesn't automatically trust people that quickly. Like they have to earn your trust a little bit. Alive without breath, as cold as death, never thirsting, ever drinking, clad in mail, never clinking. Drowns on dry land, thinks an island is a mountain, thinks a fountain is a puff of air. So sleek, so fair, what a joy to meet. We only wish to catch a fish so juicy, sweet. These words only made more pressing to Sam's mind a problem that had been troubling him from the moment when he understood that his master was going to adopt Gollum as his guide. The problem of food. Interesting, I had not thought of that. It did not occur to him that his master might also have thought of it, but he supposed Gollum, indeed, or he supposed that Gollum had. Indeed, how had Gollum kept himself in all his lonely wandering? Not too well, thought Sam. He looks fair famished, not too dainty to try what hobbits taste like. If there ain't no fish, I'll wager. Supposing as he could catch us napping. Well, he won't. Not Sam Gamgee for one. So this is gonna be rough because he's gonna probably try to not sleep and watch him the entire time. He's gonna be exhausted in a few days. Interesting that Sam caught that too. The food problem. Will that become a bigger theme as the pages go on? They stumbled along in the dark, winding gully for a long time. Or so it seemed to the tired feet of Frodo and Sam. The gully turned eastward, and, as they went on, it broadened and got gradually shallower. At last the sky above grew faint with the first gray of morning. Gollum had shown no signs of tiring, but now he looked up and halted. Day is near, he whispered, as if day was something that might overhear him and spring on him. Smeagol will stay here. I will stay here, and the yellow face won't see me. We should be glad to see the sun, said Frodo, but we will stay here. We, too, are tired. We are too tired to go any further at the present. You are not wise to be glad of the yellow face, said Gollum. It shows you up. Nice sensible hobbits stay with Smeagol. Orcs and nasty things are about. They can see a long way. Stay and hide with me. Interesting that what is he afraid of the yellow face for? Yellow face would probably keep orcs and goblins running. I mean, like it's light and he's like, doesn't wear sunscreen. But that's an interesting idea. I'm curious if we're gonna get more of that. I'm sure he just doesn't like light. It just burns him. That's what he keeps saying. The three of them settled down to rest at the foot of the rocky wall of the gully. It was not much more than a tall man's height now, and at its base there were wide flat shelves of dry stone. The water ran in a channel on either side. Frodo and Sam sat on one of the flats, resting their backs. Gollum paddled and scrabbled in the stream. That has to feel good. I was just doing that with my dog. Me and my dog just went on a walk in the woods, just like 100 yards to a little stream where he can kind of swim and I could just sit. We must take a little food, said Frodo. Are you hungry, Smeagol? We have very little to share, but we will spare you what we can. At the word hungry, a greenish light was kindled in Gollum's pale eyes, and they seemed to protrude farther than ever from his thin, sickly face. For a moment he relapsed into his old Gollum manner. We are famished. Yes, famished we are, precious, he said. What is it they eats? Have they nice fishes? His tongue lolled out between his sharp yellow teeth, licking his colorless lips. No, we have got no fishes, said Frodo. We have only got this. He held up a wafer of lembas. And water, if the water here is fit to drink. Yes, yes, nice water, said Gollum. Drink it while we can. But what is it they've got, precious? Is it crunchable? Is it tasty? Frodo broke off a portion of wafer and handed it to him on its leaf wrapping. Gollum sniffed at the leaf, and his face changed. A spasm of disgust came over him, and a hint of his old malice. Smeagol smells it, he said. Leaves out of the elf country. Ugh, they stinks. He climbed in those trees, and he couldn't wash the smell off his hands, my nice hands. Dropping the leaf, he took a corner of the lembas and nibbled it. He spat, and a fit of coughing shook him. Ah, no, he sputtered. You try to choke poor Smeagol. Dust and ashes, he can't eat that. He must starve. But Smeagol doesn't mind. Nice hobbit. Smeagol has promised he will starve. He can't eat hobbit's food. He will starve. Poor thin Smeagol. I'm sorry, said Frodo, but I can't help you. I'm afraid. I think this food would do you good if you would try. But perhaps you can't even try. Not yet, anyway. That's interesting. That's really interesting. So I'm sure he just wants fish and birds to eat. I'm curious if he doesn't like the way that the elves' place smells because he was held captive in Mirkwood. But I'm sure that's different from Lothlorien. I'm sure it has a different smell. Maybe he just doesn't really like elf food. Maybe he's just a really picky eater. Huh. The hobbits munched their lembas in silence. Sam thought that it tasted far better, somehow, than it had for a good while. Gollum's behavior had made him attend to its flavor again. But he did not feel comfortable. Gollum watched every morsel from hand to mouth like an expectant dog by a dinner chair. Only, when they had finished and were preparing to rest, was he apparently convinced that they had no hidden dainties that he could share in. Then he went and sat by himself a few paces away and whimpered a little. Look here, Sam whispered to Frodo, not too softly. He did not really care whether Gollum heard him or not. We've got to get some sleep, but not both together with that hungry villain nigh. Promise or no promise. Smeagol or Gollum, he won't change his habits in a hurry, I'll warrant. You go to sleep, Mr. Frodo, and I'll call you when I can't keep my eyelids propped up. Turn and about, same as before, while he's loose. Perhaps you're right, Sam, said Frodo, speaking openly. There is a change in him. But just what kind of change, and how deep, I'm not sure yet. Seriously, though, I don't think there is any need for fear at present. Still watch if you wish. Give me about 2 hours, not more, and then call me. One trusting, one not. I'm with Sam on this. Don't trust him. Trusting versus not. I mean, there's not really like an answer to that. Like, it's good to trust people, but not Gollum. So tired was Frodo that his head fell forward on his breast and he slept almost as soon as he had spoken the words. Gollum seemed no longer to have any fears. He curled up and went quickly to sleep, quite unconcerned. Presently, his breath was hissing softly through his clenched teeth, but he lay still as stone. After a while, fearing that he would drop off himself if he sat listening to his two companions' breathing, Sam got up and gently prodded Gollum. His hands curled and twitched, but he made no other movement. Sam bent down and said "fish" close to his ears, but there was no response, not even a catch in Gollum's breathing. Sam scratched his head. Must really be asleep, he muttered. And if I was like Gollum, He wouldn't wake up, never again. He restrained the thought of his sword and the rope that sprang to his mind, and went and sat down by his master. When he woke up, the sky above was dim, not lighter, but darker than when they had breakfasted. Sam leapt to his feet, not least from his own feeling of vigor and hunger. He suddenly understood that he had slept the daylight away. 9 hours at least. Oh my gosh! Frodo was still fast asleep. I don't know if I feel like he hadn't slept 9 hours. I think it's just getting darker in this land. Frodo was still fast asleep, lying now stretched on his side. Gollum was not to be seen. Various reproachful names for himself came to Sam's mind, drawn from the Gaffer's large paternal word hoard. Various reproachful names for him came to Sam's mind, drawn from the Gaffer's large paternal word hoard. I guess the old Gaffer calls him names sometimes, or other people. There had for the present been nothing to guard against. They were at any rate both alive and unthrottled. Poor wretch, he said half remorsefully. Now I wonder where he's got to. Not far, said a voice above him. He looked up and saw the shape of Gollum's large head and ears against the evening sky. Here, what are you doing? Cried Sam, his suspicions coming back to him as soon as he saw that shape. Smeagol is hungry, said Gollum. Be back soon. Come back now, shouted Sam. Hi, come back. Gollum had vanished. Frodo woke at the sound of Sam's shout and sat up, rubbing his eyes. Hello, he said. Anything wrong? What's the time? I don't know, said Sam. After sundown, I reckon. And he's gone off. Says he's hungry. Don't worry, says Frodo. Don't worry, said Frodo. There's no help for it. But he'll come back, you'll see. The promise will hold yet a while. And he won't leave his precious anyway. Frodo made light of it when he... Sorry. Just going to make this little note. And he won't leave his precious anyway. He's just like, it's almost interesting because Frodo almost seems like he knows Gollum at this moment, but I'm like, he doesn't. Like, Gollum should be in a position of knowing Frodo and where Frodo's at, not someone who's wearing the ring and like barely getting into like the power of the ring and looking at someone who's dealt with the power of the ring for 500 years. And so that's a little skewed. That seems a little wrong for me. I keep saying this, but I'm more on Sam's side of distrust. Frodo made light of it when he learned that they had slept soundly for hours with Gollum. And a very hungry Gollum, too, loose beside them. Don't think of any of your old Gaffer's hard names, he said. You were worn out, and it has turned out well. We are now both rested, and we have a hard road ahead, the worst road of all. About the food, said Sam, how long is it going to take us to do this job? And when it's done, what are we going to do then? This whey bread keeps you on your legs in a wonderful way, though it doesn't satisfy the innards proper, as you might say. Not to my feeling, anyhow. Meaning no disrespect to them, as they made it. But you have to eat some of it. But you have to eat some of it every day, and it doesn't grow. I reckon we've got enough to last, say, 3 weeks or so. And with that, a tight belt and a light tooth. Mind you, we've been a bit free with it so far. I don't know how long we shall take it to finish. I don't know how long we shall take it. We shall take to... Sorry, I can read that sentence. I don't know how long we shall take to finish, said Frodo. We were miserably delayed in the hills. But Samwise Gamgee, my dear hobbit, indeed. Sam, my dearest hobbit, friend of friends, I do not think we need to give thought to what comes after that. To do the job, as you put it, what hope is there that we ever shall? And if we do, who knows what will come of that? If one goes into the fire, and we are at hand, I ask you, Sam, are we ever likely to need bread again? I think not. If we can nurse our limbs to bring us to Mount Doom, that is all we can do. more than I can. I begin to feel. Gah! Tragic. Well, it's like... Man. We were miserably delayed in the hills, but Samwise Gamgee, my dear hobbit, indeed, Sam, my dearest hobbit, friend of friend, I do not think we need to give what comes after that, or give thought to what comes after that. That's so sad, Frodo. Yeah, you do. Come on, Sam. Sam nodded silently. He took his master's hand and bent over it. He did not kiss it, though his tears fell on it. And he turned away, drew his sleeve over his nose, and got up, and stamped about, trying to whistle, and say between the efforts, "Where's the dreaded creature?" Oh, that's so sad. It was actually not long before Gollum returned, but he came so quietly they did not hear him till he stood before them. His fingers and face were soiled with black mud. He was still chewing and slavering. What was he chewing? They did not ask, or like to think. Worms or beetles or something slimy out of holes, thought Sam. Ugh, the nasty creature, the poor wretch. Gollum said nothing to them until he had drunken deeply and washed himself in the stream. Then he came up to them, licking his lips. Better now, he said. Are we rested? Ready to go on? Nice hobbits. They sleep beautifully. Trust Smeagol now. Very, very good. That's so creepy. Someone you're nervous of like watching you when you're sleeping and eating you, he goes, oh, you guys sleep beautifully. Trust Smeagol now. Very, very good. You guys sleep very good. The next stage of their journey was much the same as the last. As they went on, the gully became ever shallower at the slope of its floor, more gradual. Its bottom was less stony and more earthy, and slowly its sides dwindled to mere banks. It began to wind and wander. The night drew to its end, but clouds were now over the moon and stars, and they knew of the coming day only by the slow spreading of the thin gray light. In a chill hour, they came to the end of the watercourse. The banks became moss-grown mounds. Over the last shelf of rotting stone, the stream gurgled and fell down into a brown bog, and was lost. Dry reeds hissed and rattled, though they could feel no wind. That's creepy. How? Dry reeds hissed and rattled, though they could feel no wind. Maybe it's like the water underneath moving them? That's a weird description. That's a cool description. On either side and in front, wide fens and mires now lay, stretching away southward and eastward into the dim half-light. Mists curled and smoked from dark and noisome pools. The reek of them hung stiff in the air. Stiff in the still air. Far away now, almost due south, the mountain walls of Mordor loomed, like a black bar of rugged clouds floating above a dangerous fog-bound sea. The hobbits were now wholly in the hands of Gollum. They did not know and could not guess in that misty light that they were in fact only just within the northern borders of the marsh, the main expanse of which lay south of them. They could, if they had known the lands, with some delay have retraced their steps a little, and then turning east have come around over the hard roads of the bare plain of Daggerlad, the field of the ancient battle before the gates of Mordor. Not that there was great hope in such a course. On that stony plain there was no cover, and across it ran a highway of the orcs and soldiers of the enemy. Not even the cloaks of Lorien would have concealed them there. How do we shape our course now, Smeagol? Asked Frodo. Must we cross these evil-smelling fens? No need at all, said Gollum. Not if hobbits want to reach the dark mountain and go see him very quickly. Back a little, and round a little. His skinny arm waved north and east. And you can come on hard, cold roads to the very gates of his country. Lots of his people will be there, looking for our guests, very pleased to take them straight to him. Oh, yes, his eye watches that way all the time. It caught Smeagol there long ago. Gollum shuddered. But Smeagol has used his eyes since then. Yes. I've used eyes and feet and nose since then. I know other ways. More difficult, not so quick, but better. If we don't want him to see, follow Smeagol. He can take you through the marshes, through the mist, Nice thick mist. Follow Smeagol very carefully, and you may go a long way, quite a long way, before he catches you. Yes, perhaps. So this is interesting. There's two things that I think are interesting in this. The first is that he this is the first time I'm really seeing Tolkien capitalizing a pronoun. I mean, like you do that in like religious texts, like you do that in the Bible when you're referring to like God or like any of the name of God. You don't do that when you're referring to Sauron. And it's interesting. It's a really cool thing because it's like I would love to see Frodo in dialogue say him and see if it's capitalized. Or if this is something that only Gollum does. And if this is something that only Gollum does, then it's interesting for the reason that Gollum sees this person as a deity. There could be an essay in that. But I first have to see if Frodo uses it in a capitalization. I gotta write this down. That wouldn't be a very long essay. The other thing that I want to talk about is the language of Gollum. It's interesting. There's a thing that writers do sometimes when they initially introduce a character that speaks strange. They have that character speak in their strange tongue, and they tag the dialogue to speak in that strange way. And they only do it for a few paragraphs or a few pages before they kind of revert back to like a normal way of speaking, because it's kind of tiresome to read someone's language in that way all the time. Hagrid does it a little bit, although with Hagrid, his language is a bit more rough around the edges. But like if you read Hagrid's speak from the first book compared to the last book, it is remarkably different in that it's like a lot less pronounced in his accent. And I'm curious if this is the case with Tolkien right now, in that he's making Smeagol's like language a little bit smoother for the reading experience, or if this is something that Smeagol himself is doing because he himself is getting ironed out, and will he revert back to stranger language when he goes into like a Gollum fit? I think this is something that I don't know if I'm going to have the capacity or like the ability to look at, but the language that both of them use, both of them meaning Smeagol / Gollum, I think it's going to be really interesting how one talks versus the other talks. You know, I'm sure one's going to talk harsher, one's going to talk kinder, one's going to be a bit more fearful, the other is going to be a bit more brash. But in the actual language they use, I'm very curious to see if there's going to be any smoothing out or getting worse. And is that like the language itself might be an indication of the path that Gollum is taking. But I don't know that yet, so I have to keep reading. It was already day, a windless and sullen morning, and the marsh reeks lay in the heavy banks. No sun pierced the low clouded sky, and Gollum seemed anxious to continue the journey at once. So after a brief rest, they set out again, and were soon lost in a shadowy, silent world, cut off from all view of the lands about. Either the hills that they had left, or the mountains they had sought. They went slowly in single file. Gollum, Sam, Frodo. Frodo seemed the most weary of the three. Huh. Interesting. Why? The ring? And slow though they went, he often lagged. The hobbits soon found that they had looked like one vast fen. The hobbits soon found that what had looked like one vast fen was really an endless network of pools and soft mires, and winding, half-strangled watercourses. Among these, a cunning eye and foot could thread a wandering path. Gollum certainly had that cunning, and needed all of it. His head on its long neck was ever turning this way and that, while he sniffed and muttered all the time to himself. Sometimes he would hold up his hand and halt them, while he went forward a little, crouching, testing the ground with his fingers or toes, or merely listening with one ear pressed to the earth. It was dreary and wearisome. Cold, clammy winter still held sway in this forsaken country. The only green was the scum of livid weeds on the dark, greasy surfaces of the sullen waters. Dead grasses and rotting reeds loomed up in the mist, like ragged shadows of long forgotten summers. Man, he's bringing out all the seasons here. As the day wore on, the light increased a little, and the mist lifted, growing thinner and more transparent. Far above the rot and vapors of the world, the sun was riding high and golden now in the serene country with floors of dazzling foam. But only a passing ghost of her could they see below. Bleared, pale, giving no color and no warmth. Now this is going to be a stretch for an interpretation. But could this be like also a simultaneous symbol of Frodo and him growing thinner and paler? And sometimes when the sun comes out, when he goes out into the sun and when he's in nature, he gets a little bit more distinguishable. But other than that, he's kind of like lost in a mire, in a fog. I kind of doubt it. I don't think so. I think he's just using very vivid language to describe this. As the day wore on, I just put that, sorry. But even at this faint reminder of her presence, Gollum scowled and flinched. He halted their journey, and they rested, squatting like little hunted animals, in the border of a great brown reed thicket. There was a deep silence, only scraped on its surfaces by a faint quiver of empty seed plumes and broken grass blades, trembling in small air movements that they could not feel. Not a bird, said Sam mournfully. No birds, said Gollum. No birds. He licked his teeth. No birds here. There are snakeses, wormses, things in the pools, lots of things, lots of nasty things. No birds, he ended sadly. Sam looked at him with distaste. The relationship is going to crack me up this entire thing. So passed on the third day of their journey with Gollum. Before the shadow of the evening were long and happier lands. They went on again, always on and on, with only brief halts. These they made not so much for the rest as to help Gollum. For now, even he had to go forward with great care, and he was sometimes at a loss for a while. They had come to the very midst of the dead marshes, and it was dark. They walked slowly, stooping, keeping close in line, following attentively every move that Gollum made. The fens grew more wet, opening into wide stagnant meres, among which it grew more and more difficult to find firmer places where feet could tread without sinking into gurgling mud. The travelers were light, or maybe none of them would have ever found a way through. Presently it grew altogether dark. The air itself seemed black and heavy to breathe. When lights appeared, Sam rubbed his eyes. He thought his head was going queer. He first saw one with the corner of his left eye, a wisp of pale sheen that faded away. But others appeared soon after. Some like dimly shining smoke, some like misty flames flickering slow above unseen candles. Here and there they twisted like ghostly sheets unfurled by hidden lands, but neither of his companions spoke a word. Hold on. Presently, I need to read the paragraph again. Presently it grew altogether dark. The air itself seemed black and heavy to breathe. When lights appeared, Sam rubbed his eyes. He thought his head was going queer. He first saw one with the corners of his left eye, a wisp of pale sheen that faded away. But others appeared soon after, some like dimly shining smoke, some like misty flames flickering slowly above unseen candles. Here and there they twisted like ghostly sheets unfurled by hidden lands. But neither of his companions spoke a word. What the heck is going on? At last, Sam could bear it no longer. "What's all this, Gollum?" he said in a whisper. "These lights. They're all around us now. Are we trapped? Who are they?" Sorry, one sec. Gollum looked up. A dark water is before him. He was crawling on the ground, this way and that, doubtful of the way. "Yes, they are all around us," he whispered. "The tricksy lights. Candles of corpses. Yes, yes. Don't you heed them. Don't look. Don't follow them. Where's the master?" Sam looked back and found Frodo had lagged again. He could not see him. He went some paces back into the darkness, not daring to move far, or to call in more than a hoarse whisper. Suddenly he stumbled against Frodo, who was standing lost in thought, looking at the pale lights. His hands hung stiff at his sides. Water and slime were dripping from them. "Come, Mr. Frodo," said Sam. "Don't look at them. Gollum says we mustn't. Let's keep up with them and get out of this cursed place as quick as we can, if we can." "All right," said Frodo, as if returning out of a dream. "I'm coming. Go on." What the heck just happened here? This was something that the movie said that I didn't understand, where Smeagol just goes, "Don't follow the lights," but this is the actual description of what is happening. Is it their eyes? Is it like phantoms of like these dead people? Is it like the ghost of these dead people? Weird. Weird lights. What is that? Hurrying forward again, Sam tripped, catching his foot in the same old root or tussock. He fell and came heavily on his hands, which sank deeply into sticky ooze, so that his face was brought close to the surface of the dark mere. There was a faint hiss. A noisome smell went up. The lights flickered and danced and swirled. For a moment, the water below him looked like some window, glazed with grimy glass, through which he was peering. Wrenching his hands out of the bog, he sprang back with a cry. "There are dead things, dead faces in the water," he said with horror. "Dead faces!" Gollum laughed. "The dead Marshes. Yes, yes, that is their name," he cackled. "You should not look in when the candles are lit." So weird. "Who are they? Who are they?" asked Sam, shuddering, turning to Frodo, who was now behind him. "I don't know," said Frodo in a dreamlike voice. "But I have seen them too, in the pools when the candles were lit. They lie in all the pools, pale faces, deep, deep under the dark water." Sorry, getting my leg more comfortable here. "I saw them, grim faces and evil, and noble faces and sad. Many faces proud and fair, and weeds in their silver hair, but all foul, all rotting, all dead. All fell light is in them." Frodo hid his eyes in his hands. "I know not who they are, but I thought I saw there men and elves and orcs besides them." "Yes, yes," said Gollum. "All dead, all rotten. Elves and men and orcs. The dead Marshes. There was a great battle long ago, yes. So they told him when Smeagol was young. When I was young before the Precious came. It was a great battle, tall men with long swords and terrible elves, and orcs shrieking. They fought on the plain for days and months at the Black Gates." Days and months? "But the Marshes have grown since then, and swallowed up the graves, always creeping. So, were these actual graves that the Marshes just kind of crept up and summoned them at? Or swallowed them? That's the word I was looking for. "But that is an age and more ago," said Sam. "The dead can't be really there. Is it some devilry hatched in the dark land? Who knows? Smeagol doesn't know," answered Gollum. "You cannot reach them. You cannot touch them. We tried once. Oh, yes, Precious, I tried once, but you cannot reach them. Only shapes to see, perhaps, not to touch. No, Precious, all dead." Sam looked darkly at him and shuddered again, thinking that he had guessed why Smeagol had tried to touch them. For food? Well, I don't want to see them, he said. Never again. Can we get on and get away? Yes, yes, said Gollum, but slowly, very carefully. Or hobbits go down and to join the dead ones and light little candles. Follow Smeagol. Don't look at the lights. What the... What? This is so creepy. Sam was talking about Gollum was probably trying to eat one of them, right? Sam looked darkly at him and shuddered again, thinking that he guessed why Smeagol had tried to touch them. It's interesting because I feel like the movie does a good interpretation, but also not a great interpretation at the same time. He crawled away to the right, seeking for a path around the mere. They came close behind, stooping, often using their hands, even as he did. 3 precious little golems in a row we shall be. If this goes on much longer, thought Sam. Oh, that's great. It's actually a little scary, too. At last, they came to the end of the Black Mere, and they crossed it, perilously, crawling or hopping from one treacherous island tussock to another. Often they floundered, stepping or falling hands first into the water, as noisome as a cesspool, till they were slimed and fouled almost up to their necks, and stank in one another's nostrils. Ugh, that's gross. It was late in the night when at length they reached firmer ground again. Gollum hissed and whispered to himself. But it appeared that he was pleased, in some mysterious way, by some blender sense of feel and smell, an uncanny memory for shapes in the dark. He seemed to know just where he was again, and to be sure of his road ahead. Now, on we go, he said. Nice hobbits, brave hobbits. Very, very weary, of course. So we are, my precious. All of us. But we must take Master away from the wicked lights. Yes, yes, we must. With these words, he started off again, almost at a trot, down what appeared to be a long lane between high reeds, and they stumbled after him as quickly as they could. But in a little while he stopped suddenly and sniffed the air doubtfully, hissing as if he was troubled or displeased again. What is it? Growled Sam, misinterpreting the signs. What's the need to sniff? The stink nearly knocks me down with my nose held. You stink, and Master stinks. The whole place stinks. Yes, yes, and Sam stinks, answered Gollum. Sam forgot himself. Smeagol corrects him. Poor Smeagol smells it, but good Smeagol bears it. Help, nice Master. But that's no matter. The air is moving. Change is coming. Smeagol wonders. He's not happy. What? Hold on. With these words he started off again, almost at a trot, down what appeared to be a long lane between high reeds, and they stumbled after him as quickly as they could. But in a little while he stopped suddenly and sniffed the air doubtfully. Hold on, why is he sniffing the air doubtfully? Is he not sure of the way? Hissing as if he was troubled or displeased again. Is he smelling Mordor faintly, and that's like causing him to have PTSD? What is it? Growled Sam, misinterpreting the signs. What's going on there? Why did Sam misinterpret the signs? Is Sam thinking that he sniffs danger? I mean, he does if he's smelling Mordor. What's the need to sniff? The stink nearly knocks me down with my nose held. You stink and Master stinks. The whole place stinks. Yes, yes, and Sam stinks, answered Gollum. Poor Smeagol smells it, but good Smeagol bears it. Helps nice Master. But that's no matter. The air is moving. Change is coming. Smeagol wonders. He's not happy. Is he... Hold on. The he... Who is the he here? He's not happy. Is Smeagol not happy? Is he talking about Frodo not being happy? About Master? Smeagol wonders. The antecedent would be Smeagol, but it could also be Frodo. He helps nice master, but that's no matter. The air's moving, change is coming. Smeagol wonders. He's not happy. It's not Sauron because it's not capitalized unless he's doing something tricky with me. What is going on here? What a strange section. What is going on? Huh. I'm going to keep reading. Maybe it'll be answered in the next few paragraphs. He went on again, but his uneasiness grew, and every now and again he stood up to his full height, craning his neck eastward and southward. That has to be Emyn Muil. Hold on. We need to map this. Bear with me for a second. Middle Earth map. Interactive map. Okay, eastward and southward I think is... This website always takes a long time to load. Paths, Thorn and Company. I don't want Thorn and Company here. I'll show you guys. All right. So they're here. So eastward and southward. So southeast. So he's smelling... He has to be smelling Mordor. And that's not what he wants. So they cross over the Emyn Muil. Amon Hen is right here, I think, right? They cross over this. They're in the Dead Marshes. They're probably like right about here. Where's the Black Gate? Is Morin on the Black Gate? Why is there no description of the Black Gate here? This has to be, right? I'm guessing this little crossing. I'm guessing he's sniffing something in Mordor. They're concocting something. Maybe he doesn't understand something. Maybe something's going on. That's bizarre. For some time, the hobbits could not hear or feel what was troubling him. Then suddenly, all three halted, stiffening and listening. Sorry. To Frodo and Sam, it seemed that they heard, far away, a long wailing cry, high and thin and cruel. Oh, does he smell a Nazgul or a fell beast? They shivered. At the same moment, the stirring of the air became perceptible to them, and it grew very cold. As they stood straining their ears, they heard a noise like a wind coming in the distance. The misty lights, wavering, dimmed and went out. Gollum would not move. He stood shaking and gibbering to himself, until with a rush the wind came upon them, hissing and snarling over the marshes. The night became less dark, light enough for them to see, or half see, shapeless drifts of fog curling and twisting as it rolled over them and past them. Looking up, they saw the clouds breaking and shredding. And then, high in the south, the moon glimmered out, riding in the flying wrack. For a moment, the sight of it gladdened the hearts of the hobbits, but Gollum cowered down, muttering curses on the white face. Then Frodo and Sam, staring at the sky, breathing deeply of the fresher air, saw it come. A small cloud flying from the accursed hills. A black shadow loosed from Mordor, a vast shaped, winged and ominous. It scudded across the moon, and with a deadly cry went away westward, outrunning the wind in its fell speed. Okay, so this is what we got, matching things going on right now. This is the end. This is crazy. This has to be this has to be right after Pippin touches the Palantir, after the Battle of Helm's Deep. That blows my mind. Unless they're just like out and about. This seems like it's like more ominous than they're just out for a night ride. That is crazy. I need to take a bigger note of this. That might be an essay. They fell forward, groveling heedlessly on the cold earth. But the shadow of horror wheeled and returned, passing lower now, right above them, sweeping the fen reek with its ghastly wings. And then it was gone, flying back to Mordor. Okay, so it flies back to Mordor with the speed and wrath of Sauron. And behind it, the wind roared away, leaving the dead marshes bare and bleak. Maybe it's just like testing things out. Does it feel, does Sauron feel the ring close? The naked waste, as far as the eye could pierce, even to the distant menace of the mountains, was dappled with the fitful moonlight. Frodo and Sam got up, rubbing their eyes like children awakened from an evil dream to find the familiar nights still over the world. But Gollum lay on the ground as if he had been stunned. They roused him with difficulty, and for some time he would not lift his face, but knelt forward on his elbows, covering the back of his head with his large flat hands. Wraiths, he wailed. Wraiths on wings, the precious is their master. They see everything, everything. Nothing can hide from them. Curse the white face. And they tell him everything. He sees, he knows. Ah, Gollum, Gollum, Gollum. It was not until the moon had sunk, westering far away beyond Tol Brandir, that he would get up or make a move. Sheesh. That must have been hours. Poor guy. All right, we got 3 pages left. From that time on, Sam thought he sensed change in Gollum again. He was more fawning and would be friendly, but Sam surprised some strange looks in his eyes at times, especially toward Frodo. And he went back more and more into his old manner of speaking. Oh, I was right. Went back into his old manner of speaking. And Sam had another growing anxiety. Frodo seemed to be weary to the point of exhaustion. He said nothing. Indeed, he hardly spoke at all, and he did not complain. But he walked like one who carries a load, the weight of which is ever increasing, and he dragged along slower and slower, so that Sam had often to beg Gollum to wait and not leave their master behind. In fact, with every step toward the gates of Mordor, Frodo felt the ring on its chain about his neck grow more burdensome. He was now beginning to feel it as an actual weight, dragging him earthward. But far more, he was troubled by the eye. So he called it to himself. It was that more than the drag of the ring. It was that more than the drag of the ring that made him cower and stoop as he walked. The eye, that horrible growing sense of a hostile will that strove with great power to pierce all shadow of cloud and earth and flesh, and to see you, to pin you under its deadly gaze, naked and immovable, so thin, so frail and thin. The veils were become that still warded it off. Frodo knew just where the present habitation of heart of that will now was. As certainly as a man can tell the direction of the sun with his eyes shut, he was facing it, and its potency beat upon his brow. Gollum probably felt something of the same sort, but went on in his wretched heart, between the pressure of the eye and the lust of the ring, was so near, and his groveling promise made half in the fear of cold iron. The hobbits did not guess. Frodo gave no thought to it. Sam's mind was occupied mostly with his master, hardly noticing the dark cloud that had fallen on his own heart. He put Frodo in front of him now, and kept a watchful eye on every movement of his, supporting him if he stumbled, and trying to encourage him with clumsy words. I tried to do that recently with someone I was hiking with. They did not like it. You gotta know people's love language when they're hiking. Some people do not words and will kill you if you give them a good word. When day came at last, the hobbits were surprised to see how much closer the ominous mountains had already drawn. The air was now clear and cold, and though still far off, the walls of Mordor were no longer a cloudy menace on the edge of sight. but as grim black towers they frowned across a dismal waste. The marshes were at an end, dying away into the dead peats and the wide flats of dry cracked mud. The land ahead rose in long, shallow slopes, barren and pitiless, toward the desert that lay at Sauron's gate. While the gray light lasted, they cowered under a black stone like worms, shrinking, lest the winged terror should pass and spy them with its cruel eyes. The remainder of that journey was a shadow of growing fear in which memory could find nothing to rest upon. For 2 more nights they struggled on through the weary, pathless land. The air, as it seemed to them, grew harsh and filled with a bitter reek that caught their breath and parched their mouths. At last, on the 5th morning, since they took the road with Gollum, they halted once more. Before them, dark in the dawn, the great mountains reached up to the roofs of smoke and cloud. Out from their feet were flung huge buttresses and broken hills that were now at the nearest scarce a dozen miles away. Frodo looked round in horror. Dreadful as the dead marshes had been, and the arid moors of the Numen lands, more loathsome far away was a country that was crawling day now slowly unveiled to his shrinking eyes. Even to the mirror of dead faces, some haggard phantom of green spring would come. But here neither spring nor summer would ever come again. Here nothing lived, not even leprous growths that fed on rottenness. That's interesting. Here, neither spring nor summer would ever come again. It's been a long time since I've read the Chronicles of Narnia. That seems very similar to the Chronicles of Narnia. I wonder which one came first. I wonder if C.S. Lewis was like, that's a cool sentence. I want to make it a land where someone makes it so that there's no more spring, summer, or fall. Here nothing lived, not even the leprous growths that fed on rottenness. The gasping pools were choked with ash and crawling muds, sickly white and gray, as if the mountains had vomited the filth of their entrails upon the lands about. High mounds of crusted and powdered rock, great cones of earth fire-blasted and poison-stained, stood like an obscene graveyard in endless rows, slowly revealed in the reluctant light. They had come to the desolation that lay before Mordor, the lasting monument to the dark labor of its slaves that should endure when all their purposes were made void. A land defiled, diseased beyond all healing, unless the great sea should enter in and wash it with oblivion. I feel sick, said Sam. Frodo did not speak. For a while they stood there, like men on the edge of sleep, where nightmares lurk, holding it off, though they know that they can only come to morning through the shadows. The light broadened and hardened. The gasping pits and poisonous mounds grew hideously clear. The sun was up, walking among clouds and long flags of smoke, but even the sunlight was defiled. The hobbits had no welcome for that light. Unfriendly it seemed, revealing them in their helplessness. Little squeaking ghosts that wandered among the ash heaps of the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord. Good descriptions. Too weary to go further, they sought for some place where they could rest. For a while they sat without speaking under the shadow of a mound of slag, but foul fumes leaked out of it, catching in their throats and choking them. Gollum was the first to get up. Spluttering and cursing, he rose, and without a word or a glance at the hobbits, he crawled away on all fours. Frodo and Sam crawled after him until they came to an almost circular pit, high-banked upon the west. It was cold and dead, and a foul sump of oily, many-colored ooze lay at its bottom. In this evil hole they cowered, hopping in its shadow to escape the attention of the eye. Hoping in its shadow to escape the attention of their eye. The day passed slowly. A great thirst troubled them, but they drank only a few drops from their bottles, last filled in the gully, which now, as they looked back in thought, seemed to them a place of peace and beauty. The hobbits took in turn to watch. At first, tired as they were, neither of them could sleep at all. But as the sun far away was climbing down into the slow-moving cloud, Sam dozed. It was Frodo's turn to be on guard. He lay back on the slope of the pit, but that did not ease the sense of burden that was on him. He looked up at the smoke-streaked sky and saw strange phantoms, dark riding shapes, and faces out of the past. He lost count of time, hovering between sleep and waking until forgetfulness came over him. Suddenly, Sam woke up, thinking that he heard his master calling. It was evening. Frodo could not have called, for he had fallen asleep and had slid down nearly to the bottom of the pit. Gollum was by him. For a moment, Sam thought that he was trying to rouse Frodo. Then he saw that it was not so. Gollum was talking to himself. Smeagol was holding a debate with some other thought that used the same voice but made it squeak and hiss. A pale light and a green light alternated in his eyes as he spoke. Gosh, this is going to be scary. Smeagol promised, said the first thought. Yes, yes, my precious, came the answer. We promised to save our preciouses, not to let him have it. Never. But it's going to him. Yes, near every step. What's the hobbit going to do with it, we wonders? Yes, we wonders. I don't know. I can't help it. Master's got it. Smeagol promised to help Master. Yes, yes, to help the Master, Master of the precious. But if we was Master, then we could help ourselves. Ourselves. Yes. And still keep promises. But Smeagol said he would be very, very good. Nice hobbits. He took cruel rope off Smeagol's leg. He speaks nicely to me. Very good. Very, very good, eh, my precious? Let's be good. Good as fish, sweet ones, but to ourselves. Not hurt the nice hobbit. Of course, no, no. Again, their speech pattern is very different. But the precious holds the promise. The voice of Smeagol objected. Then take it, said the other, and let's hold it ourselves. Then we shall be master, Gollum. Make the other hobbit, the nasty, suspicious hobbit, make him crawl, yes, Gollum. But not the nice hobbit. Oh, no. Not if it doesn't please us. Still, he's a Baggins, my precious. Yes, a Baggins. A Baggins stole it. He found it and said nothing, nothing. We hates Bagginses. This is scary. No, not this Baggins. Yes, every Baggins, all people that keep the precious, we must have it. But he'll see. He'll know. He'll take it from us. He sees. He knows. He heard us make silly promises against his orders. Yes, must take it. The wraiths are searching. Must take it. Not for him. No, sweet one. See, my precious. If we has it, then we can escape even from him, eh? Perhaps we grows very strong. Stronger than wraiths, Lord Smeagol. Gollum the Great? The Gollum. Eat fish every day, 3 times a day, fresh from the sea. Most precious Gollum. We must have it. We wants it. We wants it. We wants it. But there's 2 of them. They'll wake too quick and kill us, whined Smeagol in a last effort. Not now, not yet. We wants it. But, and here there was a long pause, as if a new thought had wakened. Not yet, eh? Perhaps not. She might help. She might, yes. No, not that way, wailed Smeagol. Yes, we wants it. We wants it. Each time that the second thought spoke, Gollum's long hand crept out slowly, pawing toward Frodo, and then was drawn back with a jerk as Smeagol spoke again. Finally, both arms with long fingers flexed and twitched, clawing toward his neck. Okay, so that is one of the best sections of the entire movie, when he's having this conversation back and forth about how he's saying, well, it's not like the full conversation, but like this one's broken up into a few different sections, but when he's having the conversation and the camera pans back and forth between Gollum and Smeagol. And Smeagol is like, oh, leave and never come back. And this one is so much more scary. I wonder if that other conversation is going to happen now too. But this is so much more ominous, this whole entire section. And he's literally reaching for the ring. He's so much darker right now than you think. Terrifying. Okay, only another page left. Sam had lain still, fascinated by this debate, but watching every move that Gollum made from under his half-closed eyelids. To his simple mind, ordinary hunger, the desire to eat hobbits, had seemed the chief danger in Gollum. He realized now that it was not so. Gollum was feeling the terrible call of the ring. The Dark Lord was he, of course. But Sam wondered who she was. One of the nasty friends of the little wretch had made in his wanderings, he supposed. Then he forgot the point. For things had plainly gone far enough and were getting dangerous. A great heaviness was in all his limbs, but he roused himself with an effort and sat up. Something warned him to be careful and not to reveal that he had overheard the debate. He let out a loud sigh and gave a huge yawn. "What's the time?" he said sleepily. Gollum sent out a long hiss through his teeth. He stood up for a moment, tense and menacing, and then he collapsed, falling forward on all fours and crawling up the bank of the pit. "Nice hobbits, nice Sam," he said. "Sleepy heads. Yes, sleepy heads. Leave good Smeagol to watch." "But it's evening. Dusk is creeping. Time to go." High time, thought Sam. And time we parted too, yet it crossed his mind to wonder if indeed Gollum was not now as dangerous turned loose as kept with them. Curse him. "I wish he was choked," he muttered. He stumbled down on the banks and roused his master. Strangely enough, Frodo felt refreshed. He had been dreaming. The dark shadow had passed, and a fair vision had visited him in the land of disease. In his land of disease. In this land of disease, sorry. Nothing remained of it in his memory. Yet because of it, he felt glad and lighter of heart. His burden was less heavy on him. Gollum welcomed him with a dog-like delight. He chuckled and chattered, cracking his long fingers and pawing at Frodo's knees. Frodo smiled at him. "Come," he said. "You have guided us well and faithfully. This is the last stage. Bring us to the gate, and then I will not ask you to go further. Bring us to the gate, and you may go where you wish. Only not to our enemies." "To the gate, eh?" Gollum squeaked, seeming surprised and frightened. "To the gate, Master says." "Yes, he says so, and good Smeagol does what he asks, oh yes. But when we get closer, we'll see, perhaps. We'll see then. It won't look nice at all. Oh, no, no." "Go on with you," said Sam. "Let's get it over." In the falling dusk, they scrambled out of the pit and slowly threaded their way through the dead land. They had not gone far before they felt once more the fear that had fallen on them, when the winged shape swept over the marshes. They halted, cowering on the evil, smelly ground. But they saw nothing in the gloomy evening sky above. And soon the menace passed high overhead, going maybe on some swift errand from Barad-dûr. After a while, Gollum got up and crept forward again, muttering and shaking. But an hour after midnight, the fear fell on them a third time, but now it seemed more remote, as if it were passing far above the clouds, rushing with terrible speed into the west. Gollum, however, was helpless with terror. He was convinced they were being hunted, that their approach was known. 3 times he whimpered. 3 times is the threat. They feel us here. They feel the precious. The precious is their master. We cannot go any further. This way. No, it's of no use. No use. Is he paranoid here, or is this actually true? I'm questioning that. Paranoia or truth? Gollum's back and forth is an essay, for sure. Pleading and kind words were no longer of any avail. It was not until Frodo commanded him angrily and laid a hand on his sword hilt that Gollum would get up again. Then at last he rose with a snarl and went before them like a beaten dog. So they stumbled on through the weary end of the night, and until the coming of another day of fear, They walked in silence with bowed heads, seeing nothing and hearing nothing but the wind hissing in their ears. End of the chapter. Wow. Oh my gosh. I thought that was going to be like a boring chapter, but that was riveting. There was so much happening there. I was shocked that Gollum's conversation happened that early. Got a lot of essays coming out of this chapter. I wrote 4 things down. I might synthesize some of those into one. Might synthesize 2 of them into one. I might come up with some more because I think there's a lot more there. Really interesting chapter though. That kind of blew me away. I thought that was going to be like just a trek through the marshes and it was going to be a slog. But I can't believe that Gollum's treachery is this early. Like literally like a day after he's like freed. And he's like makes this promise. Or 3 days actually. He's going back to his old self, trying to plot and find a way to get the ring back. And that's really terrifying. That's crazy. What a good chapter, though. What a good chapter. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one. Essays coming out this week on this chapter. And then my friends are reading it, so we're going to do the podcast again. And I'll read the next chapter when we get there. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.